Greg was a successful businessman, respected, admired, and envied by many. He had built his company from nothing. His cars, his mansion, his smiling face on magazine covers, all were proof of years of hard work and smart decisions. He had many friends around him, some good, others not so good. But Greg was a man who believed in people. He helped others rise, even when they could not return the favor. Among his friends was John, his closest companion since university days. They laughed together, traveled together, and now they were business partners in a new multi-million naira project. Everyone saw them as brothers. Also close to Greg was Cynthia, a charming lady who knew almost everyone in town. She was intelligent, outspoken, and always seemed to know what others didn't know. It should be noted that it was Greg's know-how that would drive most of the project. Also, most of the resources needed for the project, both human and material, were going to come from Greg's organization. This is not the first time he will be handling projects of this nature. He therefore has the experience required to drive the project from beginning to the end. But all that did not bother him. Most times he tries to play the big brother role, even though others misunderstood his intentions at times. But behind John's smile was growing bitterness. The deal they were about to sign was huge, but Greg was to receive the lion's share of the profit. John felt cheated, though he had agreed to the terms. At night, he would sit alone, staring at the papers, whispering to himself, "Why should Greg take it all? Am I his servant? Without me, he will be nothing." Soon, that bitterness turned to anger, and anger turned to a deadly plan. Considering that Greg was the power behind this project, one begins to wonder why John was this aggrieved. If inputs were to be quantified, his own could not have been as much as 5% of the whole deal. But in spite of that, Greg was ready to surrender about 35% of the profit to him, just for old time's sake. Why is this bitter could not be really understood. John met secretly with a lady named Wilfred, a socialite known for her greed. He offered her a large sum of money to poison Greg during a party. Wilfred smiled, took the cash, and promised to get the job done. But fate had other plans. The night of the party came. Wilfred never showed up. Later, Greg heard she had disappeared from town with the money. John was furious. "Useless woman," he shouted, smashing his phone. "I will handle this myself next time." Obviously, Wilfred had been told why John wanted Greg out of the way. He found his attitude totally driven by greed. While she, Wilfred, may not be said to be a saint, but she has conscience. He found his action despicable. She therefore decided to take the money, but should not be a party to hurting an innocent and kind man like Greg. He kept all this to herself and did not tell John why she took that action. Days later, John gathered two of his shady friends. This time, the plan was to kidnap Greg, make it look like a ransom case, and in the confusion, end his life quietly. Everything was set. They planned to lure Greg to a false business meeting in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. John's voice was calm as he told the group, "You know how it works. Let it be a real case of kidnapping gone wrong. 50% of your money now, and the other 50% after the job had been well executed." Then he left the place as quietly as he had come. He came in the night, not wanting anyone to see him, and began to associate him with the gang leader. The gang leader was known to be very notorious in the area, and the locals are known to gossip a lot. If there was a failure in the plan, he wants to make sure nobody can point at him. John was somebody who likes to keep his tracks clean. He had therefore planned to get the gang leader out of the way after he had successfully executed the operation. But evil plans have a way of leaking through cracks. One of the kidnappers bragged to a lady at a bar, and that lady happened to know Cynthia. Cynthia couldn't believe her ears. She rushed straight to Greg's office. "Greg, please don't go to that meeting tomorrow," she said, trembling. "Something terrible will happen. They are planning to kidnap you." Greg was shocked, his heart raced. "Who told you this?" "Never mind who," she whispered. "Just promise me you won't go." Greg sat down slowly, sweat forming on his forehead. The betrayer burned inside him. John? His best friend? He thought to himself, "Not after the many things I have done for him all these years. He wants to pay me back this way? What nonsense. I will teach him a lesson he will never forget in life. Though he drew the first blood, I must get the law involved. That is the only best way to go if society must be sanitized." Greg reported everything to the police. The officers listened carefully and told him, "You will attend the meeting, but we'll be there before you. Just act normal." The next day, Greg arrived at the warehouse, pretending not to know what awaited him. Police cars were hidden nearby, officers disguised as workers. John was already inside, pretending to welcome him warmly. "Greg, my brother, good to see you." Greg forced a smile. "Always a pleasure, John." Moments later, the kidnappers entered, faces covered, but before they could make a move, sirens wailed, lights flashed, and officers stormed in. "Freeze! The police!" The men were caught red-handed. John tried to run, but an officer tackled him to the ground. Once caught, John began to sing like the famous canary. He told the police everything, how he had earlier paid somebody to poison him, how the person had disappeared with the money, how he felt Greg had not treated him fairly in the business. Considering their relationship, he felt they could have shared the profit 50-50. But Greg decided to give him a paltry 35%. It was unacceptable. His plan was, get Greg out of the way, execute the contract alone, and get all the money. When told that he was not being fair in his actions, he retorted, "That is not how the world works. One person has to be taken out so that others can move on." Weeks later, the courtroom was filled with silence as the judge read the sentence. John could not lift his head. Greg sat quietly, eyes filled with sadness, not victory. "Conspiracy and attempted murder," said the judge. "You are hereby sentenced to 15 years in prison." John burst into tears. Greg felt tears too, not for the sentence, but for the friendship that had died long before that day. Outside the court, Cynthia placed a hand on Greg's shoulder. "You are lucky to be alive," she said softly. Greg nodded. "Yes, but I've lost a friend." He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Money can buy almost everything except true friendship and peace of mind." He later visited John in prison, not with anger, but forgiveness. "John," he said through the bars, "I forgive you. I only wish you could see that greed destroys everything." The moral lesson: greed and envy are silent killers. They destroy trust, peace, and relationship that took years to build. No matter how much success you achieve, always remember, true wealth lies not in what you own, but in the people you love and the peace you keep. As Greg later told a group of young entrepreneurs, guard your success with humility and choose your friends with wisdom, for one greedy friend can destroy what 10 years of hard work built. Months later, someone wanted to know why he visited John in the prison, even though he knew that John would have eliminated him but for divine intervention. These were his words: "If a man wronged you, you have a responsibility to forgive the man, not because of the man himself, but because of you as a person. If you carry such hurt in your mind, it has a way of counting against you. So forgive him and let peace reign in your own life."